From as early as July 2017, Australians may find themselves unable to access the websites of a number of their favourite overseas stores under a plan being considered by Treasury. Consumer group Choice has warned, under the new tax regulations coming into effect next year, overseas businesses with an annual turnover of $75 or more will be required under Australian law to register with the ATO to collect GST on all goods sold, including purchases under the current low-value threshold of $1,000. The federal government is exploring the option of blocking websites that fail to cooperate using powers under Section 313(3) of the Telecommunications Act 1997. The Act, which allows the government and its agencies to block websites that breach Australian law, contains provisions for the protection of revenue. While large retailers such as Amazon and Book Depository are expected to fall into line, smaller websites are most likely to be caught out under the new regime. Niche cosmetic brands like Charlotte Tilbury or Glossier, and non-standard-sized clothing brands like Long Tall Sally and Pink Clove, for example, may be affected. Being able to access overseas websites allows consumers to purchase products not available in Australia, making up for the failings of some domestic retailers. Choice spokesman Tom Godfrey said, "Blocking these sites will disadvantage Australian consumers while providing absolutely no benefit to the local economy. When these tax changes are implemented, consumers who rely on these stores could be denied access to niche retailers who fail to voluntarily collect GST and send it to the Australian government." Mr. Godfrey said it was unclear why foreign retailers would adhere to Australia's tax change. So, ultimately consumers will be denied access to a range of overseas retailers. "This policy change threatens to get very messy very quickly," he said. "Overseas retailers have no obligation to comply with Australian tax laws. And we all remember ASIC's attempt to block a handful of websites in 2014, when it accidentally took down over 250 sites. Mr. Godfrey said there had been no modelling or information released by Treasury about the expected impact of changes to the low-value threshold. "There is no guarantee of economic benefit to Australia, but it looks like inevitable loss for consumers," he said. A number of government reviews have previously recommended no changes to the GST rules on purchases under $1,000 until a new approach to processing imports without creating delivery delays or other compliance difficulties for importers and consumers can be found. However, the Australian Retailers Association has argued international retailers already have mechanisms in place to be able to accept GST at the point of purchase. Choice says it supports a level playing field, but has long pointed out the lack of a business case showing any benefit from applying the tax to low-cost consumer imports. A recent draft Productivity Commission report into intellectual property rights recommended that the Copyright Act be amended to make clear that it is not an infringement for consumers to circumvent geo-blocking technology, such as virtual private networks, VPNs. Phil Bishop, founder of homegrown VPN service Vanished VPN, said many of his customers used the service to do overseas shopping. For example, you can actually save about $250 by buying an iPhone from the US and getting it shipped back to you, he said. But he said while we're in the business of letting people bypass geo-blocking on services such as Netflix, Vanished VPN didn't support illegal activity, including tax avoidance. At the end of the day, if the government is enforcing the law, we support that. Treasury has been contacted for comment. Frank.Chung at news.com.au. News. Our privacy policy includes important information about our collection, use and disclosure of your personal information, including to provide you with targeted content and advertising based on your online activities. It explains that if you do not provide us with information we have requested from you, we may not be able to provide you with the goods and services you require. It also explains how you can access or seek correction of your personal information, how you can complain about a breach of the Australian privacy principles and how we will deal with a complaint of that nature.